The constellation Prison of the Golden Headband applauds your spirit. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire praises your courage. The constellation Secret Plotter is curious about your tactics. Some constellations are greatly impressed by your performance. 20,000 coins have been sponsored. I frowned as the indirect messages poured in without a filter. No one disliked praise, however, dozens of praises pouring in at once was too much. Where did Bi-hyun go and why didn't he manage the messages? He would have been called by the Administration Bureau right now. There was no compensation for the hidden scenario, and the intermediate Dokja disappeared without saying something. By the way, the total number of sponsored coins was 20,000. The minority channels were different from the large channels. I quickly looked at the fire dragon's body and pulled out the core. 5th grade fire dragon's core. A core surrounded by a soft red light. The quality of the core that came out from the disaster was unusual. It was deteriorated, but it was still a dragon. There were many beneficial parts. For example, the bones and leather. It could be processed by a goods blacksmith or exchanged. I looked down at the body of the fire dragon. I'd caught a disaster, but to only take this much? Then there was a sudden pain from my back as well as a cheerful voice. Dokja, what game character are you? I turned around and saw Junghyuk standing behind me. A cough came out. My physical state is so bad right now that I'll die from one hit from you. You'll live even if you're killed. That isn't necessarily the case. I expected Junghyuk to ask, but she was somewhat quiet. I realized that she was greatly shocked when I died. She seemed to have cried. No, Junghyuk wasn't crying. She lowered her voice like she was conscious of the other party members. Did you know this and acted? Not everything. I really thought you were dead. But I survived. Once again, her strong palm slapped my back. Lee Hyung-sung came running late. Dokja, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. Lee Sung-kook and Jung Min-suk were far away and came together. In fact, I wanted these guys to die here, but they were lucky. Well, they were in my group now, so I could control them any time, but... Silence fell as everyone stared at me. I sighed and said, You can ask one by one. What are your questions? A sudden hearing began. Resurrection is a new privilege I had gained. It isn't due to my sponsor. I moderately avoided the difficult information and only told them what I thought they needed to know. Junghyuk muttered with a dumbfounded expression. Resurrection every time you save someone? Isn't this a scam? It's only one resurrection per 100 people, but a scam is a scam. I honestly admitted it. However, the King of No Killing also had a fatal weakness. As long as I had this attribute, I couldn't directly take the life of another person. It wasn't a problem to injure, oppress, or make them unable to fight, but I couldn't directly kill them. The King of No Killing would be deprived of his throne when he killed someone. Of course, I didn't talk about these things. No good would come from it being known. You have to work hard to save people in the future. In some cases, people need to be killed. Don't worry, I'll kill them for you, Junghyuk said in a confident voice. In fact, I was able to choose the King of No Killing with ease because of Junghyuk. It was the reason why I raised the Judge of Destruction in the first place. It wasn't a big problem to keep the King of No Killing until the middle scenarios. Although there might be frustrating moments when playing solo. As time went by, there'd be more fraudulent attributes. I got a good attribute in the beginning, so it'd be hard to miss the timing to change it. But this is really like a fantasy novel. Now you have all types of abilities. Lee Sung-kook, Jung Min-suk, and Lee Hyung-sung were watching. I intentionally stared at them. It was warning to Junghyuk not to say anything. She accepted it and Lee Sung-kook opened his mouth. How did it feel like when you died? It was terrible, of course. I wanted to ask why he asked this, but Lee Sung-kook spoke again in a serious voice. Honestly, I was a bit scared when I saw you rising alive again. You're scared? Yes, strictly speaking, your entire body disappeared and was restored. Common sense says that such a thing can't happen. I don't know what the principle of this world is, but if your existence can be duplicated in the entirety, you might not have been resurrected, but cloned. He spoke a creepy story in a calm voice. It was something I had never thought about. It reminded me this guy's attribute was hypnotist. Wasn't he interesting? Junghyuk started scolding him. Have you been watching too many movies? This is an important matter. If there's no continuity between your death and resurrection, there's no guarantee that pre-death Representative Nim is the same person as post-resurrection Representative Nim. They were difficult words. Several memories crossed my mind. This brat. Was he the one who got offended by the pedantic prologue? You have a very quaint idea, but there's no need to worry. I was so conscious after my death. Strictly speaking, it wasn't a real death. Did you experience a soul state? I don't know if you call it soul, but I felt a bit of unease as I talked. Ways of Survival was a world created by the author. This world became a reality. A world in which the soul wasn't proven now became a world in which the soul was taken for granted. In such a world, what was my existence? Me. My soul, did it exist from the beginning? Or was it part of the story the author made? I shook my head. Now wasn't the time to be thinking of this. In any case, are the useless questions over? Can I ask one more question? What? Why are you suddenly using honorifics with me in Jungminso? My Yoo Junghyuk concept is over. Lee Sung-kook made a surprised expression as he belatedly realized. Come to think of it, I didn't need to hear his words. The concept was over, but their treatment wouldn't drastically change. I reached out a hand towards Lee Sung-kook. Give me your smartphone. Yes? I want a phone. Lee Sung-kook stuck out his phone. It was a good model. It was better than what I used. Can I have this? Wasn't the Yoo Junghyuk concept finished? This is my original concept. Lee Sung-kook was on the verge of tears. Everybody rest. I have to look at something for a while. We'll move in 10 minutes. You can also collect the items. The party members gathered the items scattered all over the place while I used the smartphone to access the internet. I pretended to be unconcerned, but I was actually a little nervous. The hidden scenario compensation settlement will be delayed. The plausibility request is currently underway at the Administration Bureau. It was due to these messages. The plausibility judgment. This is why the coin compensation for the hidden scenario wasn't received. I wanted to check the relevant parts and ways of survival, but my smartphone was burned. It was a mistake that wasn't like me. This was ominous. What if the mail sent by the author was erased? At this moment, a message appeared on the screen of my smartphone. Syncing to a new device is available. Do you want to proceed with the sync? What is this? I pressed OK. The download of the file proceeded and a new file was created on the background screen. 3 ways to survive in a ruined world.txt. I see. There was this. Indeed, a file that couldn't be read by the Dokjabis or constellations couldn't disappear so easily. I looked at Lee Sung-kook and Jo Min-so collecting the items. I suddenly wondered, would they be able to read this? Still, I should be as careful as possible. I went at ways of survival and started to read. Your reading speed has increased due to the effect of the exclusive attribute. I found the plausibility request that took place during Yoo Junghyuk's 6th regression. The intermediate Dokja of the Seoul Bureau, Banam, frowned upon reading the scenario in front of him. The top of the document had the name Regressor Yoo Junghyuk. Regressor. Damn. The Dokjabis and constellations noticed quickly. Bottom looked out at the Dokjabis. No senior Dokjabis or great Dokjabis could be seen. It was natural. This is a plausibility request that occurred at the level of the local dome. The principle was that the world of the district should be solved in the district. Bottom asked the nervous-looking Dokjabis. Who petitioned the Bureau? Oni of Japan. Why is he worrying about a foreigner instead of his own country? Doesn't he have any business? There's a lot of fierce fighting between the low-grade Dokjabis these days. Bottom frowned. Certainly, according to the report, it was worth doing a plausibility request for Yoo Junghyuk. There was a lot of important information that was automatically filtered from the beginning. In addition, the skill Sage's Eyes meant that some items couldn't be accessed by the system. The data survey required the help of a higher-level administration. Bottom sighed and covered up the report. It's okay. This guy is someone who has received permission from my superiors. Leave him alone. Is it okay? The Aftermath, he has a sponsor that we can't afford to go against. Can't go against a single constellation? What the Constellation Alliance? Bottom laughed. How can you lecture me? Do you know who his sponsor is? That's not it. It'll soon be the 5th scenario, so take care of it. The plausibility will be gradually offset as the scenario progresses. The atmosphere suddenly became cold, and he said to the intermediate Dokjabis, Don't you have work to do these days? Why do the sales in the United States and India look like this? Isn't there a profit in the US? And the Constellation Alliance in India? Why are the sales like this when there are so many rich targets? Are you not making the products well? Shit, don't give excuses! Quickly sell the coin goods! A laugh emerged. I was reminded of Minosoft when looking at the Dokjabis working. The planning division wasn't a joke. In any case, I was now in a situation similar to Yoo Junghyuk and Ways of Survival. I thought this would happen someday, but this is why it wasn't good to be noticed. What if the judgment causes me damages? At that moment, a trembling voice was heard in the air. How many times do I have to be called to the Bureau because of you? Bi-hyung. I opened up the communication. How did it go?